Welcome to the Codeplay Culture podcast, where we discuss tech, gaming, health, and the world around us.
Welcome back to the Codeplay Culture podcast. Rui and Logan back at it again with an interesting topic this time, the impact of internet censorship and this trend that has moved all the way from, you've seen politicians kicked off platforms, you've seen cancel culture arise. It is a trend that I'm not sure if it's going to run out of steam. Rui, what's your elevator pitch on explaining what this trend is?
Well, what is this trend really? This trend is nothing more than the elevator pitch. If this is what it is nothing more than a plot from each government to control what and how we think and what we say. This is their ultimate plan, and that is my pitch. Which is not really an elevator pitch per se, but
elevator as in the time to say it. But that was good, like better than good. You're right, and that you remember when COVID first came out and it was all shiny and new. It's like the new version, right? And then all of a sudden on YouTube, there was like a blade at the bottom. It was like, oh, this section is for global news. Like, why are they on YouTube? It was almost like a way to inject the government's propaganda, fear mongering tactics directly into everyone's. They know that people are cable cutters, so they're like, okay, well, get on YouTube, all this stuff. And I don't know, man. Like, it just seemed like, COVID aside and anti-vax and all that stuff, like none of that stuff matters, right? It's more about what we're talking about now. Well, actually, it doesn't matter, to be frank. It was only really to divide us. What I mean? Like that kind of stuff, which proven time and time again, divide and conquer is not good. Censorship, exactly, probably not good. Like, so I'm really hoping that, Elon with Twitter, I know he's taking after, my kind of 50,000 foot view. Like, I don't, follow tabloids or his life or whatever, but I think the SpaceX and the Starlink and the Tesla, like, not to minimize it or put it in a container, because this transformed humanity, like probably the greatest person that's ever lived in our generation. Like, I would say, is there anyone, I don't know, probably not. Like, he's like pretty much, I don't know, the Edward Newton of our time, or whatever it is. He left Grimes, or Grimes left him, like it was his wife, or I can't remember. And then when he got Twitter, some say like he's just been, dicking around at Twitter. Like, like there's nothing super innovative coming out there. But I will say that I think it's just the calm before the storm. And I really hope that he's going to create like kind of like a TikTok, but not China-based, Canada-based. Right. And it will be essentially free of censorship. And whatever will bubble up to the top will be completely organic. Now, there has to be, like, the only like censorship you need to have on that is the hate, because and that's a slippery slope, right?
But who determines what
that's the part, right? It's so difficult, because I have a feeling like, if you just let it bubble up on its own, it's going to hurt millions of people. It's going to hurt their feelings. It's going to, there's going to be spikes in, suicide. Like, it's really dangerous to let it probably not. And that's, I think, natural, like, that's just humans' current, like, I guess, maturity, where like not everyone is like as suave as, Rui, that will make those good decisions with a nice, big, fat, warm heart, right? There's some people out there that, kick puppies and, like there's a mix of people, right? That are not,
that's the beauty of having that bubble to the top, right? You can see the problem cases. I feel like, as on a human level, we know what hate is, and we know that we shouldn't do it. We don't need somebody telling us what their version of that is, right? Aside from our parents who should have
Mhm.
instructed us, properly and tell us what is wrong and what is right.
Yeah.
We don't need a legislation by a let's say a bias or a political party with an agenda
Oh, for
telling
sure.
us what they think should be, what is hateful, right? As humans, we know, we feel it. Like it's almost intrinsic that, like, we know it's on like a biological level, an atomic level. We know what hate is. We can feel it,
Yeah.
and we know that we shouldn't do it, right?
Yes.
And some people go astray when they, I don't know, some circumstances in their lives have kind of warped their minds to not have that, right? To not have that bone in
Yeah.
their body, right? But yeah, we don't need people or governments telling us um, what to feel or what to think. To me, that's where I have to kind of draw the line and
For sure.
and uh, you know take that stance.
Like on the government, 110,000% completely agree. Um,
Mm-hmm.
why I mention Elon, and there's a lot of people that are anti Elon. Like at the end of the day, guys, like you could be anti, Trump. You could be like, just pick someone that like definitely warrants it. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like from the surface of like what he's done and accomplished versus like tyrants all over the world, right? Just pick someone that kind of deserves that kind of, you know,
It's just,
you know
as
what I
we've
mean?
seen, it's easier to hate than
The
it is
popular.
to yeah, it's easier to hate somebody than it is to appreciate and look at their
Yes.
character and like them. It's so much easier to hate, especially when a whole
Yeah,
mob is in on that hatred. It's
for sure.
infectious, right?
Yes. And
So
it's sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that kind of leads me to think, right? Like, I know I made this statement. I'm going to contradict myself. Um, Maybe we do, as a society, need a certain censorship from this hate from infesting society, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm typically not on the fence when it comes to this. I don't like government intervention in what we see or do, right? But
Mhm.
for a cohesive and long lasting society, I feel like there may be times where the government has to intervene and restrict what the users, I shouldn't say users, sorry, I was working all day,
Mhm.
not the users, restrict what its citizens see and
Mhm.
do, just for the interests of a more cohesive society, right?
Yes. And if they do any of that, it should be
Mm-hmm.
public domain. It should
Mm-hmm.
be visible on a FAQ or whatever
Right.
it is of
Transparency. Yes.
here. And I think I told you about this in person or over a video call, but why I'm like, you know, super pro Elon for the Twitter stuff is he recently, and it was on Fireship, I think,
Mm-hmm.
where he, for those that don't know, Fireship is arguably the most popular coding YouTube channel of the history of coding channels. I don't know one that's bigger, but the guy's super brilliant. I'm pretty sure if
Oh
there's
yeah.
any coders listening to the podcast, you probably heard of Fireship on YouTube. But Elon and Twitter, they released all of well, not all of the code, a big fraction of the code
Yeah.
open sourced. Like, here's all the code. And there were sections in it. And we should probably like go through it actually. Maybe Rue, if you could get it up just to say, like, I think you got to type in open source Twitter code recently released. They have
Mm-hmm.
sections in the code that give buffs to politicians like Democrats. They have
Yeah.
sections in the code that says, if it's Elon, do this, right? Um,
Yeah.
but that part, like, no, him knowing that, right? They're putting it out as full transparency, right?
Yeah.
Um, and if they actually do you know, what a lot of us are probably thinking with Twitter is like, just make it completely, all the censorship will be public domain, and then
Mm-hmm.
everything bubbles up naturally.
Right.
They'll open source as much as they can. without, demonetizing the platform,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because companies like Facebook and all, they open source parts, not the whole thing.
Right.
And then you won't have this shadow banning, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Like I'm currently shadow banned on TikTok.
Are
And
you?
I used to, yeah, because my channel posts a lot of skateboarding stuff. And once
Mm-hmm.
they came out with their new terms and conditions, and this happened like a year, a half ago,
Mm-hmm.
nothing has gone viral ever since.
Right.
And any skateboarding stuff posted immediately will, like, over a bunch of periods of time, you'll get shadow banned for that. Meaning that, like, you won't come up in For You pages. Like, you'll just get 300 views on every post. It'll never pop to like 10,000, never pop to wherever. It's because they don't want that dangerous acts. If a kid sees someone doing a skateboarding trick, they go out and try it, they break their neck,
Right.
right? So that um, is a form of censorship, right?
Yeah.
And that one, I mean, for me, like I'm not ready at this point mentally to take a stance on dangerous acts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but maybe just without giving it too much thought, probably you want to protect your children, right? If they see something,
Of
they're like,
course.
yeah, I'm going to go and set that on fire because it looks pretty cool. I wish there was a way
Right.
to opt in. Actually, you can't really, because if they see it, then they're going to go try it. So you can't really opt into, oh, this is a professional, you can't, try it, whatever. They do have
Right.
that tag. I'm not a pro, but they do have a tag for pros and stuff that says this is a professional. Do not try
Yeah.
this at home, that TikTok automatically adds.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the censorship and choosing what goes viral and what does not, which
Right.
is not okay.
Right.
Um,
Right.
like kindness for sure should, bubble up and go viral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I had one video on YouTube Shorts was 16.6 million for like
Yeah.
giving a board away. And that, I feel like, I don't know if YouTube stuff is like as um like kind of like clean, not clean, but is it like manipulated, or is it, not manipulated for like, okay, you know what, we're going to give this guy a bump for whatever reason, or was it
Yeah.
natural, right?
Yeah.
For me, it felt natural because it was very weird with the YouTube short. It went, I would get people that would message me in Mississauga that saw
Mm-hmm.
it. Then a couple weeks later, people would message me from Georgetown that saw
Right.
it. And then further out, then it kept on, it kind of moved like that, like kind of like
Yeah.
it grew like like a bomb or something, like, but a nice bomb, right? It just kind of
Mm-hmm.
moved in a circle on the map.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I'm not sure if like that was natural or not. And then, was that not okay? Forget about what you don't know and what you don't know. But like, if he does it right, and he's like, these are Twitter's like 10 commandments, like, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word, that we will censor no matter what, like, hate speech, like acts of crime, violence, human trafficking, like all of the, like, the standard, like,
For sure. Yes.
this is like the new age, not new age, but like 2022's like 10 commandments, like,
Mm-hmm.
version 2 of the whatever it is, right? Kind of more
Yeah.
for like digital, right?
Right.
And then I wonder if all these other companies like Google and TikTok will adopt those. They'll be like, you know what,
Yeah.
we're going to do that too, because they got a lot of success, and we're hosed if we have a black box, algorithmically manipulative
Mm-hmm.
censorship, right?
Right. Yeah. Don't forget also, yeah, Elon can do all this, but this all has a lot to do with government policies too, right? Can't
Yes.
exclude that fact that, yeah, he can open up all this, but we will be subjective or subjected to government regulations when it comes to things like that, right? He can open up
Yeah.
the doors, completely wide, but it'll just get stamped, or they'll get shut by the government, or at least, they'll leave a little crack open and let out what they deem um, appropriate,
Yep.
right? So it all has to do with the legislation, because actually the first time my first brush with this whole thing was I was surfing on YouTube, Shouldn't say surfing. I was watching videos on YouTube, and some ad came up where it was a YouTube ad, like Google or is the one that, they're the ones that paid for this spot, right?
Yeah, right.
It was something about signing a petition to stop Bill C-11 in Canada.
Yes. Yes.
And for those who don't know, Bill C-11 is something that will regulate your content to only Canadian, well, firstly Canadian, and secondary everything else. So it will censor what you see on YouTube and on the internet, period. And on a lot of websites. I'm assuming Facebook and ads and just everywhere, right? Everywhere online. It's an online censorship act, not
Yes.
specific to YouTube. So that's my first brush with C-11. I read up on that bill. It's pretty crazy, I have to say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't support that kind of bill.
For sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
That has nothing to do with the cohesiveness of society, and that's just more self-interest than anything else.
Yeah. And like I originally heard about Bill C-11 from like other Canadian YouTubers that were like posting about it. Like if this goes through, it will change everything. You know, it's awful. It's a way for them to like insert their level of control and like around these different like, I don't know too much about it. I just know that when I read it and I was like, oh shoot, this cannot happen. Right. It basically like goes against, you know, free speech and like all of this stuff because of like how like free speech will like naturally bubble up where if it will be like manipulated and, you know, injected into different, you know, forums. And Canada is like, very small compared to the US financially, population wise, per capita, all that stuff. So you can imagine there's similar bills or not bills, whatever they call it in US that are maybe already in effect, not just at the country level, but the state level. And
I don't know.
Like, you know, I think it's a big, like, there's so many things. And then even the stuff that like is like visible, that's a bill for that, whatever. There's all the behind the scenes stuff that you don't really like that goes without being said, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say, for example, that bill C-11 went through in Canada. And let's say, for example, that Twitter was still closed source and it was a Canadian product, right? Only people from Canada used it. And then all of that code manipulation in there, right? Like that could be outside of the bill, right?
Yeah.
So there's the two things, like what the government can do or what, you know, based on that bill and what the developers have implemented to comply or to not comply, because they can just lie and say we do or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then they can add in their own layers that says, you know, if this person posts, then I don't know, whatever, right? Which I feel like if they start layering in these government level like bills and laws and whatnot, having a public blockchain, for lack of better words, of here's the FAQs for what's censored and what's not. Here's the laws that we comply to. It'll just, at the end of the day, it's just going to push people to more like dark webby like platforms for free speech. Like, it's the same as like there's a bunch of new prescription laws coming to Canada where essentially instead like for people that are taking like liraglutide, dulaglutide, semaglutide, which is Ozempic, and also other injectables, TRT, the whole gamut, instead of being able to get a prescription, right, and your doctor will whatever, you will have to go into your doctor for like a injection. You know what I mean? So like they're basically like access to medication and stuff is ridiculously hard in Canada, right? And they're trying to make it even more hard. So like there's a bunch of Canadian YouTubers like throwing up arms on these new medication laws and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like Derek from More Plates, he put out like such a huge video. I think Andrew Huberman put out a huge video. Like I think Joe Rogan mentioned some of it too. And like Derek from More Plates, he's got a bunch of like USA companies for that because Canada is such a a crapshoot in terms of being able to set up any like clinics, pharmacies, all like compounding pharmacies, all that stuff. It's like, forget about it. We have such a small population and we're so much more locked down than like, like, oh, do you want to bring your brother like to the, I don't know, the wrestling match? Like, oh no, he his bedtime's like 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Oh, Canada, right? Like we're like really like restricted from our parents, which is in this case is the government.
That's what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And she's like, no.
It's pretty insane, man. It's pretty insane. I heard crazy stuff like this new streaming act or C11's gonna start targeting VPN providers and cracking down on VPN, right? And we all know who and which countries crack down on VPN. I don't want to name any countries here.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of countries that crack down on VPNs, and you actually get jail time for using a VPN if you're a citizen of said country.
Ah, interesting.
So it's not really, conducive to our liberty to restrict this. But going back like, I don't know, censorship's not new, right? Going back thousands of years, you had during the Roman Empire, you had censors whose duty was to maintain public image and public order and just keep the people in line, I suppose, or censor people from certain things. I'm assuming that was their job title. Probably also they took census. I mean, that's the root word of censor is somebody who takes a census, and yes, they took a census of the population. That was their job, but it was also public morality by restricting what citizens would read and see. So censorship is not anything new by any stretch of the imagination. It's a title. It's a philosophy that's been around for a long time, and politicians are wise to the fact that it can assert dominance and control over its citizens, and that hasn't changed in a long time, and it probably won't for the next 2,000 years.
Yep. A lot of these, I guess, prehistoric baggage we bring along the way instead of this radical, reform, which I feel like it's coming to a head where, like, at the end of the day, like, the government, it has its goods and its bads. Like, I don't think those are words. It has its
goods and bads.
It's good and it's bad. Like these 3-year-olds, like explaining the government. It's good and it's bad. So because like you do want, people not running around with guns and, shooting people and all that stuff. Like you do want police
naturally.
Yeah. So in the law, those laws are great, but then when they start like getting into that gray area or that conflict of interests where now they're like, you know what? No, stay home, take the injection. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Like I got the, all 3, whatever. I'm like, whatever, let's just move on with this.
All 3? Wasn't there only 2?
Well, it's like there's 2 and then the booster, like, whatever. But then after like the other boosters, I'm like, I'm fucking done. I was like, we're done at this point, right? But like at the end of the day, like when they have a conflict of interest to like, they're like, okay, now we want you to spin around and say the government rules. I'm like, okay, you guys are abusing your power, right? This is clearly abuse of power, right? You do want the government, you don't want them, but you don't want them super, I don't know, controlling and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
You do want them to protect, but you don't want that like conflict of interest. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, you don't want them coming into your house and telling you, well, you can't put up this wall. You can't move your couch over there. You need a
Mhm.
permit to do this. You
Yeah.
can't park your car in the driveway without plates. You have to cover it. You can't. There's a can't for like everything you can think of,
Yeah.
and it's the way they control you, man. The way they have
Yeah.
that control.
Mhm.
It's just it's mind-boggling when you see some things that you cannot do without asking, you know, the big chief up top, if you're allowed to or not. And if
Yeah.
they say you can't, man. You're
Yeah.
out of luck, right? So
The
it's pretty
hierarchy
unfortunate. Yeah, the
the
hierarchy, man.
hierarchy of capitalism and government. And so big out of the box question, like without government and without capitalism, okay, I'm not saying communism. People, as soon as you say without capitalism, they think communism, right? But
Hmm.
let's just say without money, okay, and without a government, um, would we only really just need police, laws, and ambulance, and fire? And could we maintain it without that level of, you still have laws and people that uphold the laws and people that will,
Hmm.
but
Are you
like,
are you like saying that can we live without a nation state
yeah,
in its entirety, the way we
like, yeah,
see a nation state as it is?
I don't know what a nation state is. Maybe you can,
like
like,
like a country with laws, and like a nation,
yeah, like
right? With
I'm
laws
wondering
and
if, like,
and police and
can,
government.
yeah, can it exist without the government part, right?
Yes, yes, it can. It's very simple, right? You
Mhm.
collectively get a group of people,
Yeah,
you institute um, kind of a declaration or some kind of
yeah,
decree,
yeah,
and you appoint your buddy the sheriff,
yeah.
and you get yourself a doctor. You create a flag, you plant it there.
Yep.
You get neighborhood watch just to make sure, but as
Mhm.
a whole, theoretically, everybody's going to be cool because you know everybody,
Yeah.
and and that's your community, right? So if you have
Mhm.
all these little, it sounds like I'm describing like little tribes
Or like states.
becoming
Sounds like
tribal.
states, like all the different states,
Yeah.
and then
So
how they have
yeah.
their state law, and then they got federated at a certain point where they're like
Right.
the United States, because they probably were all these little different countries, right? They had their
Right.
own
Right.
law.
Right.
Um, the like the harmonizing across, or the government level of, like, yeah, like, you probably don't. I don't know. It's a little too much, but like, and the money thing, right? Like abolishing money, like,
Hmm.
how do we progress as a society without um, money, right? Like, would
Yeah.
people, okay, let's say, okay, very simple thought. Um, you want a new iPhone. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's, let's say the best one right now is 2 grand. You're going to pay it up front. Now, if money didn't exist, how can Apple make that product? Right.
Yeah.
So, like, because people are slaves, like, until they're 65, right? Until they
Right.
retire, right? This is the problem, right? You can't. Um, and then I know we're getting off track from censorship, but it does. It actually, it's not too off track if you think about
Hmm.
it. Censorship, like, is born from. It's getting more born from government, right?
Right.
Because, if, like you said, if you look back in the day, there's these whistleblowers that were shut down for, these, rebel free radicalists or whatever, that will say what's really going on in the government, and they were censored.
Hmm.
Like, it's all about, like, whistleblowers and censors
Right.
going back and forth. Um, but the 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 money part, I'm like, how do you abolish that, right? Because, well, maybe you don't have to abolish it, right? Maybe it's fine, because I think people for some reason love it, which is just crazy to think about it. Like, um if I built my own house, and then, like, I mean, you probably have to go back to more, uh, you know granted, civilization would probably not advance as fast,
Right.
right? Because
It
there's no,
wouldn't.
like, drive, right? Let's
That's right.
go, right? Like, we need that. Like, I want to achieve. Like, what do you want to achieve? Everything that we have is perfect right now. Like, but
Hmm.
but maybe that's just because maybe not like thinking about it right. You know, like
Yeah.
could I believe if there was like a mature enough like society as a whole, like globally, like
Hmm.
well, probably I don't know, probably 70% of the world is mature enough to like not hurt someone, which is
Right.
scary to think about that
Right.
30%. But like I don't know, like could you wake up every day and be like, I'm going to make some positive impact in the world, right? And people
Hmm.
are still kind of doing what they're doing. Like
Right.
I don't
Right. I
know.
mean, we don't. It's just how we're conditioned to be. Right. We don't need to wake up and chase, the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
Right. We can. I mean, we do need to. It's just the
Mhm.
way society is today. Right.
Mhm.
There was a time. There was a time, I think, during like everything up until the turn of the century. I think the unemployment rate was at 0% because number one, they didn't keep records, but number two, people didn't have to join the workforce at that time. There was no workforce at that time. You got up, you fished, you hunted, you survived, you cooked your meal, you enjoyed that time with your family, you kicked around a couple of coconuts, and you went to bed. Like that was your life. It was just living day to day and enjoying every moment with all the people around you. Now it's different. Now it's a more like slave oriented uh, approach where you go to work and you slave for money
Mhm.
just to spend that money and give it back to whoever, to somebody else. Basically,
Yeah.
you don't keep it, nor do you want to
Mhm.
keep it. It's just paper, right?
Yeah.
You exchange it for goods,
Yeah.
but there was a time where you didn't have to do that, right? You would enjoy
Yes.
every moment with your family. But then again, a lot of diseases and stuff back then, so you'd probably die. But those 30 years you were alive, man, you
Pretty
enjoy
good.
those 30 years.
Man, they were the best. Like probably like the most
Yeah.
delicious years ever.
Yeah, you didn't spend like
Um,
half or like half of your 24-hour day at work and then the other half trying to like deal with everything else, right? You
right.
literally
Yes.
lived your life
Yes.
for yourself and your family.
And but the new iPhone, it's just so nice.
Well,
Like
that's what they want you to think.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right?
I know.
Like so I'm like, no, I'm set. Let's say you got like whatever in the bank, you're looking at your account, you're like, yeah, man, like I'm just gonna like continually pay down the mortgage, whatever, and then you're like free, you still got like utilities, whatever it is, and then
Mhm.
just don't go anywhere because as soon as you leave with your car, which is the magic uh, cost machine that brings you
Yeah.
from each place to spend more, right?
Mhm.
Like so when you're shopping and stuff, obviously, if you're going somewhere, then you're still paying for the gas. But um like is it just with the allure of the new and you're like, oh my god, I because the companies are probably thinking, man, we got them good with that one, but we got to just bring the hammer next time, be like, you know what, I know you got that, you wanted that, but this one's the one, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, god, I need that, like, I don't know, Tesla Model 7, whatever,
Mhm.
right? I'm like, no, like it's scary to think, and like I feel bad for the kids growing up in this world, right? Like they're
Yeah.
like, hey, by the way, yeah, like school, yeah, well, whatever, and then yeah, just got to work and then die and like, but like every time you spend,
Mhm.
you kind of have to slave more for the dollar,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you don't spend, so all these companies are trying to allure you with this like glamour of the new,
Yeah.
so they will take your like what, and then you'll have to work more.
Right.
So like is the option just to be happy with what you have? I think yes. I think it's
Yeah.
just as simple as
For
that.
sure. It is.
So
It's just as
the,
simple as that. You got it
the
right. But good luck with that, man. Good luck with
easier
that
said than
because
done.
the way we are, we see
Mhm.
that new shiny iPhone. Not that I have an iPhone, but I get
Yeah.
the idea of it. You see that
Yeah.
new shiny iPhone, and you're like that. That makes you just feel like giddy inside, right? It's like, man, brand new phone. It's all these new features, right?
Mhm.
But it's that conditioning, man. It's how are you going to get away from it now? How can you? We're consumers,
Mhm.
and I feel like the '80s kids are like the worst consumers ever, man.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
the consumerism is maybe the crux of the problem. Uh,
Yep. Consuming, as
yeah,
in eating, as in like I will. I will take that. I will buy that. I will get that.
Yeah, it's bad,
I
man.
will,
And
yeah.
you see people tattooing other people's IPs on them, intellectual property, and just going like crazy over somebody else's, creative IP. And I feel like that is the pinnacle of consumer stupidity, right?
Yeah, like NFTs.
Yeah, sure. NFTs.
Like when you're like, yeah, I drew a picture of a duck. $2
Yeah.
million for
It's
my
like
duck.
got a He-Man tattoo. Like no, man.
It's like you're
No.
gonna get sued for your tattoo.
People are
Like the
insane, and
lawyers.
yeah, it's just not very good, man. It's not very good. We need to break from that mentality, break away
Yes.
from that, and drop the whole consumerist, feelings, because ultimately it's just their feelings, right? And you feel
Yep.
satisfied when you do that, and not caring about the hours you're gonna have to slave away to pay that shit off, right?
Yes. And then you
Um,
feel super good when you get something new and then immediately it's gone because that's greed or
mhm.
dopamine. When you seek, like the more you get, the more you want. Like greed and
Yeah.
dopamine, I feel like are very linked
Oh yeah.
intrinsically. Um, there was a doctor that was on, it's like YouTube, and he was just talking about how when it could have been like Jordan Peterson or something like that, or like something like it could. I think it was like it wasn't a one-off, right? And he was saying like, oh, in like in the West, in the Western Hemisphere, like this part of the world,
Mhm.
Canada, U.S., Mexico, that quadrant. Um, they'll prescribe you like Celexa, Cipralex, whatever it is for depression in the
Yeah.
winter, whatever. And then when they were interviewing, it was like like in some like area in Africa, they were interviewing a doctor, and he was saying that, we have antidepressants. We tell um, the patients to go and do a bunch of kind things for others,
Right.
and it completely alleviates their
Oh, of course, man.
concerns. And they don't have that. Like they don't need that,
Mhm.
right? And we don't either. Like even the non-essential medicine industry, just for like to get you hooked on some like SSRI of like, oh, it's winter, so pop your
Mhm.
Cipralex, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like take vitamin D and go like help a bum across the street. Like even the word bum is not very nice, but help
Yeah,
like
it's not
someone
nice.
across the street, like help a grandma across the street.
Right.
Um, it's like, okay, there's your Cipralex, which you have to like buy for whatever. So then you need
Yeah.
insurance. So you have to work to get that free insurance from the employer. And then you're
Yeah.
hooked to the capitalist milk machine,
It's
right?
funny
Because
because people think it's a quick fix, but whatever you just pointed out, it's not a quick fix. You're better off helping that person across the street. That is a quick fix.
yeah,
The amount you have to work and what you have to give up for that medication, it's not a
yeah,
quick.
for sure. And with those ones like SSRIs, the longer you're on it, the harder it is to get off.
Mhm.
Like it was like I was like probably like 8 years ago. Like I was like out of nowhere getting like sad around the winter, and then I would just be like driving. I'd be like, I like really hate myself, but it wasn't my thought.
Mhm.
It didn't come from. Um, I didn't think it. It just happened. Like it just
Right.
kind of like hit me. I was like, that's weird. So I talked to my doctor, and then I got a prescription for Cipralex or whatever it is. I can't forget which one. And it was
Mhm.
for a year on it, right? And then
Mhm.
I was like, I talked to my family doctor. I'm like, hey, like I feel like I don't need this stuff anymore. I've been doing my research. I just want to like, replace it with more sunlight, more
Right.
exercise, and a better like diet and nutrition and like, all that stuff. And she's like, try it, and I think the first time I got almost all the way through the year, right,
Mhm.
without being off, I think I cold turkeyed it like a dimwit.
Yeah.
Um, then I had to um, essentially go back on it for the next winter. So that's now 2 years, like 1 year full. And the
Yeah.
next year was only the winter. And then after that, I it's been fine ever since. Like
Right.
completely, like natty, like medication free for
Nice.
like depression and all that stuff. Like those things are like detrimental for you. It just breaks my heart. Like, I know when we talked with, Paulina about parents, pop it, like flicking a Mentos to their kids, which is a melatonin, which is a exogenous hormone that will completely screw them up. Like it's just crazy to think that people think that the fix is a pill when they're like, if you think about it, like, go back to when we existed, like, when we're cave people and we're out in the sun hunting and gathering, like we're so against our own nature.
That's right.
Like what we're doing, like you're sitting there, dude, you should be like running from,
of course,
like
man.
Sprinting from a friggin' elephant about to like sit on you or something.
Or running towards it and taking it out.
Take it out. Yeah, to jump on its back like Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever.
Yeah, right? Man. Just like take it for a ride. Yeah, we should be in those predicaments because that's our nature as human beings. So, but we're so far from that, man. If I see an elephant, I won't even know what an elephant looks like.
Yeah.
How do I know what an elephant looks like? I haven't seen one.
I know they kind of look like the back of cars because they have a trunk.
That's true. Yes.
We got the dad jokes
all day, ladies and gents.
Yeah. It's like as soon as my first dad joke was born when my kids were born. Like I can't remember.
You said that the last podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm like a broken.
That's gonna be a running joke.
It's a running joke. Or it's like I want to make a TikTok about like just weird like sentences where it's like, okay, number one, I'm not going to repeat this. I'm not going to repeat this. And that was one, and it would be number two. And it was like a whole chain of these like weird things where like they're inherently flawed from like just the way that they're born, but they're different. They're not like that first one over and over again. But yeah, it's kind of messed up, like a little bit of a broken record, but like again, the capitalism, the censorship, I guess the slavery light, which is like a light version where you can be outside and you can see, you can buy things, but it's really like a prison, especially like the housing industry, right? So like I have a brother-in-law and sister-in-law, like they're like out of university, right? Let's go. Like, where are they going to live? Like, it is brutal, right? It's like $1 million for like a box. Like, you know what I mean? You got to like go. It's like a refrigerator size box. I'm like, where it is deliberately like imprisonment from the government. It's basically like, oh, well, you know what? You got to live somewhere, don't you? Right. So how about this house is pretty good. It's about the size of a small Buick, like a tiny car. And you have to work every day until you die. Good deal. Yeah. Like the mortgages, man, it's clearly apparent that this is not okay.
Yeah. The thing with that is I bought, like, I used to live in an apartment, in a very small apartment. And you kind of work your way up, but you can't, there are times you can't really be picky and choosy.
Yes.
So if you do want to afford a bigger or a house, you have to, like I did, move away from a centralized, location from the city where I used to live. I had no choice. I cannot afford to live in the city.
Yeah.
So I had to move out of the city, right? So you have to make concessions if you do want certain things. And that goes with everything in life, right?
Very true.
You want something, you have to sacrifice something for it. That's just the way I look at it, but everybody has different experiences, right? But yeah, you have to sacrifice if you want. Yes, mortgages are expensive, but if you go into the city, you're going to be paying. You can't even afford to live in the city. But further out you go, the cheaper a house is and the more you get, right? So maybe this is just part of the government plan to have people not be so centralized and relocate. Yeah. Right? Because I know that when they bring a lot of people from overseas here, they don't ship them to Ontario.
in
They have
containers.
programs.
The way you're saying it's like, they just
Don't
come
ship
in the
them.
containers. I'm like,
No, well, when they get offers, they don't get offers to come to Ontario. They get offers to
yeah,
come to to go to different provinces in Canada, right? The
yep,
more, the less populated provinces.
yep,
So that's how the government approaches that. And as citizens, maybe we should approach it the same way if we do want something. Because I know that in like Calgary, for example, Edmonton, houses are cheap, right?
yeah,
They're maybe half the price of what we pay here.
yep,
So you may have to, sacrifice for that, right?
yeah. The whole moving thing is like awful because
It
I
is.
love everyone I'm close to. Like,
Yes.
like it's almost like we should like have a drone like platform that could
Mhm.
be like repositioned with our friends.
Yeah, for sure.
like because like I don't want to like not be in walking distance
I
from
know,
like,
man. I
you know
know.
what I mean? Like, so like
It's
that's
tough, man.
hard.
It's definitely tough.
But you're right though about the like all of it, but especially about the choosiness. Like you can't be choosy with a new, like if you're like starting out finishing um university, you're like, okay, whatever, you just got to get in, right? Like
Yeah.
get some condo, whatever, like you're gonna pay whatever, just get approved for what, go to whatever loan shark,
Just get
like
in. Yeah.
not super bad loan, like break your legs loan shark, but like
Mhm.
a mortgage like financial institution you've never heard of, or
A
go
B
to a
lender.
mortgage broker. Yeah. And
Mhm.
then essentially you're in, and then 2 years, sell it. You'll make 100 or 200K, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then keep doing that until you have a reasonably comfortable size. There
Right.
is no like, I heard, I've never really seen it, but like this thing of like millennials pop out of like university and they're like, where's my 100K and my
Mhm.
3,000 square foot house with my Tesla? I'm like, that's not how life works, right?
Yeah.
You like, I wish it was like,
I wish too, man.
it's just too ridiculous to
3,000
this,
square feet. That's like a dream.
yeah,
That's a
this is
dream, man.
pretty much an MMO where you're like, we're playing like World of Warcraft or like Final Fantasy, like whatever the slowest one was, I think 11. And you're
Yeah.
like, I remember Final Fantasy 11, just to be able to get like a shirt I wanted for my red mage, I would literally have to kill like probably like 200 bees. Okay. And every like every 8 would
Yeah.
drop a beehive chip. Now I had to
Nice.
get a stack of 12. I would
Mm.
literally, it would take weeks off my life getting these beehive chip stacks just so I could get a shirt. Right.
Nice. Do you
And
remember the name of that shirt?
no, no, I don't. Like it was just some garb, like, like those prehistoric, those dated
Some
terms.
garb.
You're like, hey, I really like your trousers. Oh, I really like your blouse. Ooh, did you see his garb? It's very, very nice garb.
Yeah.
Like those words, but I don't know, man. Like maybe looking at Final Fantasy 11, life ain't so bad. Like I don't
No.
have to go and, well, actually, probably my character is ripped, probably like
Dude,
muscles
speaking
and
of
farm beehive
FF11,
chips.
how was that game? Did you like that game? I played the
Yes, I
crap out of
loved
that
it.
game.
And
What were your
you played
two
Final Fantasy
classic?
11?
Yeah, man. I
No
did.
way! Like the online one?
Yeah.
I knew you
FFXI,
like.
man.
Oh, yeah,
I love that game.
Sorry, what was your question? Because this is
What was
unlocking a
your
chapter right now.
what were your character classes? You had Black Mage, but was it like Black Mage,
No,
Red
I
Mage,
had Red
Black Mage
Mage.
combo?
I had Red Mage.
Didn't you do like a combo? Because you can do half and
Yeah,
half, right?
yeah,
60
half and
and
half.
30.
I did.
Yeah.
I did like white and black, which is red, right?
Yeah.
And then I kind of went to more like probably I don't know 55% white and then 45 black.
I was white and black.
Yeah,
Dude, I used to
Okay.
Magic Burst. Remember Magic Burst where you like hit that spell right at that one moment and it does
Yeah.
like a crit? Yeah, that
Oh,
was very hard
man.
to pull off.
Like, do you remember like just waiting for like epic like whatever like
Dude,
the mobs to like appear, and you had to
it
wait
was
for the 7th moon of.
crazy.
So
Yeah,
you
the seventh moon, right? The moons, the
Yeah,
waxing
ugh.
and waning gibbous, all those
Oh
moon
my-
phases and stuff.
I'm literally at auction houses, dude. And
Yeah.
I'm like begging people for Gil. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, no wonder people just panhandle, like
Oh, for
probably
sure,
people
man.
are like, when they get into this MMO and they think it's real life, but like, they're like heads, they're in some machine right now. We're just like playing the game.
Yeah.
And they're like, no wonder people panhandle like at the auction house
Oh,
for
of
Gil.
course, man. I spent weeks, maybe months, trying to get this one cloak. It was called a vermilion cloak. It was like a red cloak, and it was like one
that was what I'm
MP.
talking about, dude.
Was it the V cloak? It was like 1 MP per like minute you'd get back. Dude, it was like there was a refresh on it,
Dude,
like a tick.
it might not be if it was red. Like I had the full red mage like whole thing. I think vermilion cloak was like that rings a bell, dude. I'm gonna like after this, like maybe we'll like do a like a seductive private like members only channel after this where I'm gonna log into my Final Fantasy 11 account, dude.
Yeah.
Actually, dude, wait,
Hey,
is that game still up, dude?
It's still up, man. What were you, human, or were you
I was that
Sandorian?
little
yeah, Sandoria, those
boogers,
little like
guys,
gnomes or whatever, right?
little Yodas, yeah. But yeah, like I was born in Bastock. Where were you born?
I'm from Bastock too, man.
Oh man, I probably
Bastock?
asked you for Gil.
Dude, Bastock, we used to like have those competitions and we'd always come last. They used to call it last stock because we always like come in last. That's not even a joke. That's for real.
Yeah, that's true, I think, because I think that people that were in Bastock that wasn't the place to go. Like there was like a better starting zone. like but you can't really
actually no, those little guys were not from Sandoria. Sandoria were the elves. Little guys were from some other place, but the elf place, I think that was Sandoria. That was the place to be, man. Everybody was just there, right?
Like, tell me you're not just thinking about let's start playing again, because now that we both play it,
that like, game is brutal, man.
It will suck your life dry. You have kids, you need to put them up for adoption.
Give them away.
You give your kids away. You can't have a wife. You can't have nice things. You can't work.
It was bad. Yeah, you can't work and play that game, man. I don't know if they changed it, but man, the mobs would just chase you for hours. They would not stop. Like the mobs don't stop chasing you.
They hit so far away. They're like over here, and it's like, and then you're like over here, and I'm like, what the hell? How did that? The latency, or just I'm not sure if it was the latency or the wide like attack box that things had. But do you remember when you're like waiting for like a party, and like as soon as you try to pull a mob
That's
in,
all
like
I did.
In
wait
like
for parties.
What was that desert area that you wanted to get to to get like the next kind of levels? I forget, but then you're in a party in that desert area and you're trying to pull these like lizard things, and then you needed a tank, you needed like buffs, you needed like a white mage, which I was predominantly like,
game, man.
The white mage role. I would say like that is the fluffer of the party. Do you know what I mean? Like literally, like you go around, you feel better now, you feel better now, you feel like it's like the literal like Final Fantasy fluffer, you know, like. But anyhow, dude, we should probably. I'm hoping that when I log back into my account after this call, my character is still there because I put in like, you know, when you can say it's /playtime or something. It was something ridiculous like 10 months or something, but that's like it's months. But it wasn't months. I think it was probably like 8 weeks or whatever it was. But they take the weeks as 24 hours, right? So like,
of course,
week would be 24 hours times 7. So like just to have 8 weeks, think about the time. I think I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, sorry, girl. This is FF11 only guy. Yeah. I'm literally like trying to like.
How long? When was the last time you played? Because I think I don't know if they keep characters this long, right?
I hope so.
Be nice, man. I'd hop on that guy, dude. Be so good.
I would love to show you my. I'm gonna put a pause here deliberately. Yeah. No, I'd like to show you my like full red mage like thing. It took me forever to get that whole set.
Yeah.
And dude, like it's probably exactly what you're saying, the vermilion cloak or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like I love it. I remember once I got the hat that was like the, you know, the pizza shaped, dude, just say triangle, the triangle shaped hat with the feather, and that was red. I was like, that was like, as soon as it was down too, like covering the face.
Yeah.
Like, you're super swag. You're like, you don't want to look people in the eye, but you're a red mage.
Yeah.
Dude, my Xbox handle is like red mage. Like, dude, that's like, I play the frig out of, maybe it's like red mage is a way of saying you're pretty much bipolar. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of mage would you like to be?
Can't decide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Red was good though. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
man, we'll have a look and see for sure.
The
Maybe we can do
tangent on FF11 just
play
derailed the
a let's play.
censorship. Yeah, let's play. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, so I don't know, dude. Wrapping up the censorship stuff, it's tough. I don't think we're gonna get there. Like, well, it's not that I think we all know, like as a species, we're not going to get there anytime soon for where we want to be.
Mm,
I think that people are, nobody likes this. Okay. Nobody likes the world, the certain conditions that we have. Okay. No one wakes up every day. Oh God, I'm glad to like do whatever that CEO wants because, you know, he pays for my kids to eat. Like nobody wants to do that stuff. Right. It just hasn't come to a significant enough head for
yeah,
people to action, right? And what would that action look like? I don't know. I just hope it's like full of kindness, like no pitchforks, no like
of
torches.
course.
You know, that would
Yep,
be, I would rather be a capitalist slave than be a hate mob, right?
absolutely. Yep.
Like, so what does it Jesus say? Like turn the other cheek? Or was that
Hmm.
like pretty much every big cool dude from religion?
I think he specifically said that. Yeah,
Okay,
that
yeah.
that
So he
was
gets the
his words.
the
He gets credit
TM
for
on
that.
the
That's his
jacket.
quote.
Yeah.
But there may have been some other people who said similar things. But yeah, he's right for sure, man. Pitchforks is not a good unless you're hunting down Frankenstein. But even then, right? He didn't deserve the mob.
I completely agree. Another thing that would probably be canceled by censorship is
Mm,
if Frankenstein came out now. Like, no, no,
yeah.
no, like free Frankenstein, that's not okay. And people are like, hey, it's a movie. And they're like, oh, did you just say it's a movie? It's real to me. I identify with the movie being real. I'm like, okay, you know what? At the end of the day, like hate is bad in any shape or form,
Of
even
course it is.
for
Yeah.
me saying that, oh, you shouldn't behave like that, right? Like
Hmm.
that's almost borderline, like not borderline, it is almost like not nice. But at the end of the day, like let's say someone is actually attacking someone,
Right.
like you don't want to say, oh, I don't want to tell him to stop because he has full creative expression with his, you know what I mean? Like there's
That's
a
right.
line, and
At
that
some
line
point, you
is,
have to step in. Yeah.
yeah, that line is not gray. It's very black and white.
Right.
Once, like, I find that you've crossed the line at that point, and like
Hmm.
that's not kind or nice. Like,
Right.
and you have to ask, like, are people's intentions good? Like, well, like, yeah, he said that or she said that, but was it out of like, was she coming from a place of like trying to help, or like
Yeah.
sometimes like that's why like judges and stuff exist, because they look at the like, okay, what was the intent here? Like, you know what I mean? Like the
Hmm.
intent is almost more important than the, well, I mean, a crime, but like you can't like,
Right.
oh, he died, but the intent was to help him. Like it
Right.
doesn't work like that, right? But I don't know. We'll get there. It's tough, right?
Yes.
I don't know. Like none of us like this, and we'll get there. But
Yep.
anything else to add here before we head
No,
on
I
out like
think we've
a
covered.
baby?
I think we've covered pretty much all that we can related to this topic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just scratching the surface again, because again, these are things that humanity is ruminating on and will not solve like with a light switch like solution, right? It's
Right.
going to take a whole bunch of pain and really, really coming to a head, like a pimple, you know, and very satisfying once you pop like the government zit or whatever it is, right? And then you just goes to like just chill. You're like, yeah, I'm happy it's out, or
Yeah.
as long as it, you know, whatever. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Codeplay Culture podcast. Logan and Rui, I'll see you next time. See you, Rui.
Goodbye.